This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Let me talk about the idea of resilience. 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 I'm going to read two quick paragraphs here. Most approaches to resilience resemble traditional risk management. Identify a set of risks, calculate the probabilities, and do what you can to mitigate those risks. Those techniques don't account for the unexpected, the so-called black swans, and they don't acknowledge the rolling, compounding effects that disruptions can have in our hyper-fast and hyper-connected world. We get locked into economic and technological patterns that constrain us in terms of our ability to evolve and cope with new challenges. What we really need is to operate with variability as the norm. Well, to operate with variability as the norm is to be a trend-following trader, is to be a systematic quant trader, to be a managed futures trader, whatever you want to call yourself. But the type of trend-following trader that I define in my books, that's about operating with variability as the norm. Now, I don't want to sound too bookish or too academic. Variability is the norm. That means there's going to be volatility. That means you can't make the volatility go away. And if you try and make the volatility go away, you might end up as the third ride down on the next 50% S&P drop when it does happen, because we know it will happen. It's not a prediction. I'm talking about swans here. I'm talking about unexpected. There will be another major equity drop. There will be the same panics that we saw in 2000 to 2002, in the fall of 2008, October of 1987. It will happen again. And most people will lose 50% of their net worth because they don't have a strategy to deal with variability. Variability is the norm. The 100-year flood doesn't happen every 100 years. It happens every 2 to 3 years. With that little backdrop, that little introduction, I saw a good clip on YouTube the other day, kind of a quick and dirty interview that somebody did with David Harding, and it looks like it's some type of gala benefit somewhere in England, I'm guessing. I'm going to let that play. I liked it a lot.
We are now joined by David Harding. Mr. Harding is founder, chairman, and head of research of Winton Capital Management. Thank you, Mr. Harding, for your time. If I may start with the first question. As we know, you employ over 100 researchers with academic degrees in various disciplines, even extragalactic astrophysics. How do these people with this specific kind of skill set contribute to your business success?
Well, my business involves studying the world's financial markets and making bets on whether they're going up or down, and managing, quite complex portfolios in all those markets all over the world. And it sounds funny having extragalactic astrophysicists working for me, but the way that physics is these days, or extragalactic astrophysics is, there is data streaming in from all over the universe into telescopes, and is kept in huge data banks, and then you analyze that data looking for patterns and regularities. And that's very like the world financial markets. In our offices, there is data streaming in every day, 24 hours a day, from all over the world, and our physicists are looking for patterns in that data which we can bet on for the purpose of making money.
Okay. Mr. Harding, after working as a trader for several years, you first co-founded AHL and 10 years later founded Winton Capital Management. What motivated you to take these courageous steps?
Well, I think you should never underestimate the power of desperation as a motivating force. So at a fairly young age, my career wasn't actually going that well when I founded my first company. And so there was a degree of desperation in setting it up. But I had a stroke of luck, which everybody needs, and the company was fortunate to become almost immediately successful before I had time to back out, if you like. So I found myself at a very young age with a successful company, and ever since then it's been a question of riding the tiger, trying to stay in the saddle of my business as the great forces that are changing the world have led to it growing and thriving.
Okay, one final question. When you look back at your long and successful career, was courage rewarded in your investment decisions?
I think the main place that I would say that courage had entered into my career, and I'm not sure whether this is virtuous courage or not. Joe Ackham this morning differentiated between kind of good courage and bad courage. I'm not sure whether mine is good courage or bad courage, but I can tell you that everybody, for most of my career, all of the intellectual orthodoxy and all the professors and the businessmen and all the forces of respectability said that what we did was impossible. Completely, theoretically impossible, and therefore we must either be cheats, charlatans or crooks, and to go on running your business when everyone says that what you're doing is theoretically impossible clearly means you're in a very lonely position. And I think part of the reason why I've been very well rewarded is out of sheer perversity I went on doing what I was doing because I trusted the evidence of my scientific research and the evidence of my senses over the received wisdom of the powers that be and the authorities in the world. So if I had any lesson, Mark Twain said, how come when physical courage is so common, moral courage is so rare? That's a saying that has always had a special meaning for me because I'm particularly cowardly physically as well. So.
Mr. Harding, thank you for your time. Enjoy your time at the St. Gallen Symposium. Thank you a lot.
The courage part of what David Harding says is great because he had a little chip on his shoulder. I saw that chip when I met him. Heck, I've got a chip on my shoulder. Anybody that has some success, you got to have a little chip. You got to say, hey, they don't believe in me. I'm going to go do it. So I love that aspect. But I think what's really interesting, too, about what he said, what he did in those few quick answers, very, very strong depth there. Don't underestimate what he said. I'd listen a couple times. But think about this quote from Nassim Taleb. A turkey is fed for 1,000 days. Every day, it confirms to its statistical department that the human race cares about its welfare with increased statistical significance. On the 1,001st day, the turkey has a surprise. See, that's what Harding had figured out. Harding figured out that surprise happens. Most people sit around like a big fat turkey, and they don't think they're going to get killed. And that's half the battle of being a trend-following trader, is you know you're going to take it in the gut. You're going to get punched in the solar plexus. It's going to hurt, but you're going to survive. You're not going to bleed out because you're ready for it. Think about taking a punch in the gut when you're ready for it and a punch in the gut when you're not ready for it. And those are the people that are just buying and holding. Just buying and holding and trusting that the United States government will take care of you, trusting that the Federal Reserve will take care of you. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm going to jump right into another clip that I've pulled that I liked. This is from Michael Lewis, who famously wrote the book Liar's Poker, and he wrote the book Moneyball. And this is a cool little clip that I found talking about what was behind Moneyball.
If you asked me what Moneyball was about, I wouldn't say baseball. I'd say that what it was about was, it happened to be a baseball team that was applying statistics to the valuation of people and coming to new ideas about what people were worth. But it could have been anybody. And baseball is just a very clean environment to do it in because the statistics, the numbers are available, and the data is pretty clean. Moneyball was about how people get misvalued. And how then in turn warped value systems encouraged warped behavior in people. But primarily about people being misvalued and how a perfectly free market, what market could be freer than market and professional athletes, can completely screw up people's valuation. And there are all these biases that infect the human mind when it's making intuitive judgments, value judgments, especially about other people. We overvalue handsome people. We overvalue tall people. We overvalue, Malcolm Gladwell wrote an article in the New Yorker a long time ago, and there was this little fact in it that the Oakland A's loved. It was something like this, that only 3% of the adult population in America is male and 6 feet or taller, but 50 or 55% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are male and 6 feet or taller. The Oakland A's front office read that and thought, okay, when we invest money in the stock market, we're not going to invest in any company that has a CEO who's male at 6 feet or taller, because what's happened is he's there because he's male and 6 feet or taller, rather than actually knowing what he does, knowing what he's doing. We're going to look for, short, portly, homely CEOs, because they're more likely to know what they're doing. So Moneyball wasn't so much a prescription for how to succeed as it was as a prescription for say how baseball players should succeed, as it was for how someone who's evaluating other people should go about doing that. Having said that, I think that it resonated with people because a lot of people feel misappraised. And Wall Street people in particular really resonated with Wall Street people. And I kind of wondered at the time when it came out if it didn't resonate with Wall Street people because they were in the middle of the single greatest madness of appraisal of human abilities and human contribution in the history of the world. The people were being paid huge sums of money all around them, or maybe they themselves were being paid huge sums of money to do things of dubious social utility, and so that they could see that this was possible, kind of thing. That it made that often what people get paid makes no sense at all. Anyway, I don't have. You asked me for advice for the losers who watch your shows, and the only advice I get asked. It's very funny. I get asked this all the time. I get asked for advice all the time. After Liar's Poker came out, I got asked for advice. Every kid in America who wanted to work on Wall Street wrote me and said, "How do I succeed on Wall Street?" And I always kind of come back to the same thing. I have no general advice except this: that there's an enormous power to doing what you really care about, and the outside world will often try to distract you from what you really care about. It will send you lots of false signals about your value, about what you should be doing, and do your best to ignore those signals. Because don't treat those with don't treat those as commands. And it sounds, and put it in the trite way, just it's follow your passion. But if you're lucky enough to have passion, passion is unbelievably powerful, and pay attention.
Yeah, I love that. Building off what David Harding said, and that was Michael Lewis, who wrote Liar's Poker and Moneyball. But building off what David Harding said, he was talking about the idea of measuring, counting, and using statistics to make good judgments. But what Harding and Michael Lewis is getting at is not generally accepted. Most people don't pay attention. And look, you can go through my 5 books. You can train with me. You can learn to be a trend-following trader. And perhaps that will be the ticket. That will get you going. But for most people, and I want to read a quote from a Stanford psychologist, and this is from the 1950s. And he said, quote, "A man with a conviction is a hard man to change. Tell him you disagree and he turns away. Show him facts or figures and he questions your sources. Appeal to logic and he fails to see your point." End quote. And in many ways, that's what I feel like when I'm trying to get the ideas of trend following across. That's what I'm up against. Now, there's also a more nefarious roadblock that I'm up against, which is the mutual fund industry. The mutual fund industry, specifically the mutual fund buy and hold industry, loves fees. They make a lot of money from fees from you. And they have no desire to tell their clients about trend following strategies and how to look at the world from a statistical perspective or how to prepare yourself for the next black swan. That's not their cup of tea. But I also love about what Harding and Michael Lewis did was they both essentially got at issues that are perhaps even more important. The courage, the passion, right? Those are terribly important. I'm very cognizant that I'm controversial. I'm very cognizant that this topic of trend following, systematic trading, the psychology that goes along with it, the analysis of all the biases that so many human beings operate when it comes to money and markets. I'm aware. I'm pushing. I like being the tip of the spear. It's fun. I like getting in there and mixing it up. I'm not going to stop. I mean, sure, there's the business side of me that's a capitalist, and I enjoy being compensated for when I can help people to learn something that they otherwise might not know. But heck, I'd probably be doing this for free. I mean, I love doing this. I love getting into the nitty-gritty. I want to read a definition really quick of a polemic. It's a contentious argument. It's intended to establish the truth of a specific understanding and the falsity of the contrary position. Polemics are mostly seen in arguments about very controversial topics. Now, my favorite gentleman who could write a fantastic polemic is no longer with us. He passed away due to cancer. But this man, Christopher Hitchens, could speak. But before I play this outgoing clip, let me just read a quick quote from Hitchens. The high ambition, therefore, seems to me to be this, that one should strive to combine the maximum of impatience with the maximum of skepticism, the maximum of hatred of injustice and irrationality with the maximum of ironic self-criticism. This would mean really deciding to learn from history rather than invoking or sloganizing it, end quote. And that is from his title, Letters to a Young Contrarian. And I'm going to let him give an explanation as to what he meant, even further explanation. From the grave. Like I said, he's no longer with us. But it's exactly what Harding was getting at. Stand outside the crowd. Now, okay, for those out there that think they didn't hear something important on this podcast, they didn't hear how to make money. If you didn't hear it, I guarantee you won't make it. Because it's right there, plain as day. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.